Hello there, welcome to the continuation of our tutorial. In today's class, we're going to be looking at the JavaScript arrays. In our previous lessons, we already understood what is an array. What's an array? Array is a variable that is used to store multiple values. So one variable but can be able to store multiple values. So that's the advantage of an array. With an array, you can combine related variables in one variable. So if you look at this is how an example of an array. So you can see this is cars. The one variable is cars. So the name of the variable is cars, and then we have a square open bracket. Then each value now, because we said it can store multiple values, right? So you can see each value is a string separated with comma. So it's not only string that it can store, it can as well store a number. So those multiple values that it can store now will be separated with what? A comma, right? So if I say, let's say var n is equals to square bracket, then I say 1 comma 2 comma 3 comma 4. So that means 1 comma 2 comma 3 comma 4 are now separate values, multiple values in the array. Okay, so what's an array? An array is a special variable which can hold more than one value at a time. If you have a list of items, a list of car names, for example, storing the car names in single variable will look like this, and that is difficult. So this is difficult. Imagine what if they are up to maybe 10, 20, so you go on writing varchar 1 up to varchar 20. so, so an array helps to what simplify that scenario. So, however, what if you want to look through the cars and find the specific one? Yeah. So, all those problems are being solved by an array. Creating an array using an array literal is the easiest way to create a JavaScript array. So, var array name is equals to square bracket open, then item 1 comma item 2, then all items, then square bracket close. That's an array. Okay, spaces and line breaks are not important. Yeah. So you can see in the last item in the array, you don't need to put a comma. So most browsers prefer you not to put a comma, right? Yeah. However, there's another way you can create an array without using the literal, by using the new keyword. So the following example will also create an array and assign values to it. Var cars is equals to new array. So this is, here we are using the array keyword. So this array class here now helps to what? Create a new array. So the two examples above do exactly the same. There's no need to use new array for simplicity, readability, and execution speed. So again, just like we have identified in numbers, strings, using the literal is much faster and better. Okay, now how do we access the elements of an array? You access an array element by referring to the index number. This statement accesses the value of the first element in the car. For example, now you have cars to have 3 items like this, for example. Now to get access to the first element, you use an index like this. So if I say cars square bracket open, and I put 0, then close the square bracket. So this returns the first item of the array. And so the index go on like that, from the first item being 0, the second item being 1, and the third item being what? 2, until you get to the end of the array. So for example, you can access the first item of this and store it in an element on your HTML page using document.getElementById demo dot inner HTML to be equals to cars. Note, array indexes starts with 0. So square bracket 0 is the first element, square bracket 1 is the second element. Again, we can change an array element by accessing that specific index and assigning a new value to it. Okay. So look at this example here. Access the full array. So here we say document.getElementById demo.inner HTML should be equals to cars. Now observe this inner HTML is spelled as inner in small letters, then HTML in capital letters. Okay, so this is how you use JavaScript to place content in what? In an element on your HTML page, right? So step 1 is that you need to give that element an ID attribute. So when you do that, then you can now assign something. Look at it. For example, this is our HTML page now, right? This is our HTML page. You can see we have an element, a paragraph. And so we need to give that paragraph an ID attribute. Remember attributes? Good. Then we can now use JavaScript to access that element using its ID and then setting its inner HTML to cast like this. And so the content of the element becomes the exact content of the array like this. Okay. Yeah, we already know that arrays are objects. We did that in the previous. Array elements can be objects too. Yeah. So here is where you store, complex, other complex, structures in an array. For example, an array element can be an array. An array element can be a function, as we have seen here. An array element can be a date, can be anything. So we're going to be looking at some common properties of an array. For example, the most common property of an array is the length. So if I say an array dot length, it returns the total number of elements that are in that array. So for example, using our car example above, if I say cars.length, it's gonna return what? 3. You can also sort the array. Okay. The length property of an array returns the length of an array. So it gives you the total number of elements in that array. And this is very important because, for example, you can loop through the elements of an array. The word loop means to repeat. So we're gonna look at loop in maybe some lessons to come, and you're gonna see how you can iterate over this element. So looping is a feature of every programming language where you can repeat an operation over a number of cycles, right? And perform something over and over and over in that cycle. Okay. Now let's look at this. Okay, so look at this one here. It said accessing the last array element. Of course, it's easy to access the first one. The logic is very simple. Just put array square bracket 0. What if you want to access the last element? Of course, you use array of square bracket, then array.length minus 1, right? Gives you the last element. Because if an array that has 3 items, its indexes will be 0, 1, 2, right? So, or when you say that array.length, it returns 3, right? Then when you say 3 minus 1, it gives you 2, which accesses the last element in that array. Now look at this. Just for knowledge sake, this example here, looping through an array element. Here we have an array. We have some variables here, text, length, and I, and then our fruits is set to be an array of four items. The length of the fruits is stored in flen, so that flen will now contain 4, and then we have text to be the opening tag of a UL, right? Text is set to be the opening tag of a UL, and then we said that for I equals 0. So this is how a looping statement looks like, right? Where you loop, you said for I equals 0, semicolon. So this is your initial condition, your starting condition. Then I less than flen, this is your stopping condition. Then I plus plus, this is your what? Increment. Okay, so what I'm saying is that start and initialize I to be 0. So this is your starting condition. You set I to be 0. Then this is your stopping condition. So you want to stop when I is less than when I is greater than flen. So this condition, in as much as this condition is true, then the repetition continues, right? But once these conditions become false, then the repetition stops. So that's how a for loop. You have a condition of which, in as much as the condition is true, then that the repetition continues. It continues repeating the same thing. Then you have an increment. So you want I to keep incrementing from 0. If the loop executes again, I will become 1. If the loop executes again, I will become 2, like that. So let's look at this example here. So at the end, we're able to create a HTML, UL structure using JavaScript here, right? So this is what JavaScript is all about. JavaScript is supposed to make your programming, your web design to be easy. So far so good. We have been looking at foundation topics. All this you have to know in as much as JavaScript is concerned. And then when we get to the loop statement here, we're gonna stop and we're gonna design a website where we're gonna use JavaScript to design our website, so that you can see the difference between designing an ordinary website and trying to use JavaScript to design a website. Okay, now you can see how we're able to create an unordered list structure using just few lines. Now this becomes more interesting if we have like you having 10 fruits, right? Or 20 fruits, something like this. The same code was able to generate this. So, or you have 100 fruits, for example. Now you have you are designing a JavaScript web page, and then you have to bring in the countries, list of countries, list of states, local governments, and the rest. Say select your country or select your state. So with JavaScript, you can just populate, um, content in the HTML select box like that. So JavaScript is a very, very powerful language. We'll see that very soon practically. But then, before we can go into such practical, you need to understand each one of these topics. I encourage you to still go ahead, take time, go through all these topics over and over and over again. That's what's gonna help you to really understand them. Now, next, what we are gonna look at now is that you can also look through an array by using this function here. And how do you do that? You just say array.forEach. So array.forEach, my function. So you have another function. What's gonna do is that it's gonna pass each item of the array to this function. So sometimes you want to do some complex stuff, and then this is just the best possible way to do it. Okay, adding array elements. Of course, the push method. You can use the push method to add an array element to the end of the array. So the easiest way to add a new element to an array is using the push method. So if you run this line of code here, the length of the array is going to change from 4 to 5. So another way to add an element is to use fruits or fruits.length, and then you put in a new element. So adding elements with high indexes can create undefined holes in an array. Yeah. So for example, when you do something like this, say this array here has 4 elements. So the next index is supposed to be 4, because this is index 0, banana is on index 0, orange is on index 1, apple is on index 2, mango is on index 3. So the next index that you're supposed to add an element is index 4, then index 5, right? Before 6. But you went ahead and add an element on index 6. Yeah. So at the end, you have an undefined indexes from what? for 4 and 5. Right? For 4 and 5. If you then access them. Okay. Associative arrays. Many programming languages supports array with named indexes. Array with named indexes are called associative arrays or hashes. JavaScript does not support array with named indexes. In JavaScript, arrays are always uses number indexes. So when you do this with an array, then JavaScript is gonna convert your array to an object for you. So the difference between arrays and objects in JavaScript, arrays are numbered indexes. In JavaScript, objects are named indexes. Arrays are special kind of object with numbered indexes. When to use arrays, when to use objects. JavaScript does not support associative array. You should use object when you want the elements to be strings. The elements names to be strings. For example, instead of you saying cars of 0 BMW, you can say maybe cars of maybe the country that the BMW was made, or something like that, or cars.name, or car of model BMW, and things like that. So again, here we are being told to avoid a new array. We should use this instead. The literal is much better. So it also points new array. This is better to just use the literal. The new keyword only complicates the code. It can also produce some unexpected result. How to recognize an array? A common question is, how do I know if a variable is an array? The problem is that the JavaScript operator type of returns an object. So if you say if this is an array for sure, but when you say types of fruits, it returns an object. So it's not really a way of knowing that this is an array. But to know that this is an array, there are some solutions here. The first solution is to say array dot is array. So for example, if you say array, if you want to know that fruit is an array, you say array dot is array fruits, and then it either returns a true or a false. So the problem with this solution is that ECMAScript 5 is not supported in older browsers. To solve this problem, you can create your own isArray function like this. So the function is array x, return x.constructor.toString.index of array greater than -1. Solution 3. The function above always returns true if the argument is an array. Or more precisely, it returns true if the object prototype contains the word array. Solution 3. The instance of operator returns true if an object is created by a given constructor. So if you say fruit instance of array, it returns a true. Perhaps this is the best solution to check if a structure like this is either an array or not. Okay, we're gonna stop here today. See you in the next video.